Okay, on this episode of Unlocked, we're headed to a newer location for us. This is the first year we're able to harvest out of this spot, and we've been working on it for the last 3-4 years.
3 years.
Yeah, so a lot of work to do soil-wise in this particular food plot. It had not been a food plot for a long time, set aside, and the cedars had encroached in there, and then bedding thickets, kind of getting those established, habitat work with eastern red cedar to open that up and stop the encroaching cedars from locking us out, basically. And then just basically putting together a new location from a south wind, because to the southeast on 100 Ridge, we've had a tremendous amount of success. So we just felt like we needed to get another spot set up at a different wind in a great location on our farm where we've had a lot of great encounters and some successful hunts.
Massive funnel through here in that bottom, but you're now surrounding it with bedding, and it's just a feeder system during the rut.
Yeah, and now this hunt specifically takes place in the relatively early season, early October, and we had come down, basically we were hunting a cold front that didn't really pan out the way that Greg and I anticipated. So we saw the front coming in, so we planned, time that we were going to spend some time hunting, and that front kind of moved in and sat on us. And and it was just never really, it wasn't like it came in, got cooler, and moved out.
Right.
It cooled down a little bit, but that weather front just sat
stagnant,
straight over the top. It's like, it was like that windy, rainy, crappy weather for several days in a row.
Okay.
And when I actually went in and was able to harvest this deer, it was actually hunting a warm-up.
Okay. You're on the back end of that. Back
end of a weather system. Temperatures are increasing. The wind is manageable now. So, you're talking 10 to 15, which is about, perfect, especially for going down in the bottom.
Sure.
And we're going to go down and hunt a relatively shady area in the bottom, which is cooler. And just using the weather shift that you wouldn't normally anticipating being good to still, be successful.
I think that sometimes that's a very good point. Deer move every single day, right? It's a matter of how much and when or where, right? But a lot of that, if you understand those weather patterns, you can make those plays of saying, okay, I know it's going to be an altered movement from maybe what I'm expecting, but because of this condition, we need to be closer to bedding, or we can just be over food tonight because they're going to get on their feet and they're going to get there before dark. You can make those judgment calls, and that's the other great thing about OnX app is not only can you make the plan for the hunt, but you can make the plan for multiple days in advance to not burn out sets, because you have the weather feature right here in the app to be able to tell you, I don't have to go there tonight. Tomorrow's setup is going to be a little bit better because of this weather we're going to experience, and therefore tomorrow's my better day. I don't need to burn it out tonight.
Yeah. One thing about the OnX app when it comes to the weather, that's a feature that a lot of people, it's very underutilized.
Yeah, because it's only been out for about a year.
Yeah, and so you click on it, and the most wonderful thing about this is we cut out the fluff that a lot of the other weather apps aren't providing, where I have to scroll to the bottom and go another page over to see what my barometric pressure is. And okay, I want to know what the wind is. I want to know what the barometric pressure is. And then I want to know about sunrise and sunset, when is my legal shooting hours, or when do I need to set the alarm for in the morning. There's other features that you can scroll through and get to, like moon phase and when it's rising, when it's falling.
It tells you
into that thing
a long time in advance as well for what the next few days are going to be. It's not just hey, here's 3 days or 5. It gives you a long time to be able to make those predictions.
It has everything that a hunter would want all right there.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. It just dummies it down, and it only gives you the important stuff. But going back to this location, Casey, you are in, the bedding of all bedding. You're through the transition, but also bedding. You're as close as we can possibly get. And the fact that it's starting to warm up, don't forget we have the running water, the creek to the south. So, and there's a lot of transition coming from the other 100 Ridge that's coming from there. We've obviously made a design so that if they leave one, they're hopefully going to come to another, and it seems to have finally played out.
Yeah. Yep.
All this work that we've been talking about doing for 3 or 4 years, you were the first one to capitalize on this opportunity, and it worked out perfectly.
It did. And I mean, I wouldn't have liked the 100 Ridge setup, which is to the southeast, as much as I liked the bottom north-facing slope, walk downhill at it in the shade late at night on the heat versus the south 100 Ridge spot.
More exposed.
On a hillside in the bright, direct sunlight on a warm-up.
Right.
You're thinking about, okay, where are my best odds of running into a deer that you're chasing?
For sure.
You're not going to sit on an 80-degree day on an open hillside south-facing.
And expect that mature deer to be out there in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Most likely ain't going to happen.
Yeah, and I think it was probably Seth last year where you could really see a great example of it where all his deer just sit
on the shade line.
In the shade. Last year.
And then conversely, Greg and I have noticed that in the late season when we're hunting, our deer will come out and stand in the sunlight.
Absolutely.
They like run away from the shade. There's a shade line here, and they'll literally just follow that as the sun sets and just stay out in the sun for as long as they can.
Yeah.
So
It would be interesting to know. There's no way we can truly, verify this, but I would imagine there's got to be somewhere around a 5-degree delta difference between 100 Ridge and this bottom.
Sure.
Because there's, several hundred feet of elevation. Down here in the bottom, it's way cooler. And if you paid attention to these type of things, and obviously Casey did, on these warm-up days, they don't want to be on that high ridge. They want to be down low where it's cooler and so forth, and closer to water.
The only advantage of being high is if you have a wind to blow the breeze.
Sure.
To cool off that and you have the movement of air. But if not, it's low, it's close to water, it's heavier shade. That's the preference.
Yeah. Ultimately, you took what you have at Big Cedar and said, that's really awesome. Let's go do it again. So you went down the creek and made another one that you call State Line.
Mm-hmm. And now you're bouncing the same deer between two different plots, but most importantly, you've got two completely different access points, two completely different winds to hunt the same deer.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And maybe not even the same deer. There may be deer that are focused solely on this side of the farm. And so you have options. And so, these little spots like this are great for those early season hunts. It's all north slope, kind of east slope, fading down into this valley that's got this. They actually have two creeks or one creek and a ditch flowing into it. So it's a really cool area, but you're in the thick of things here.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, this plot was a big cedar thicket. So we had to go in there with a dozer and clean a lot of that stuff out. It took us almost 2 years to probably get that sorted out.
For sure, of the first year to just get it out of there and then to repair the soil.
The debris.
Yeah. So for us to really make it a plot, it took us about 2 years to really get it fine-tuned. But the point being is we identified the location, right? We already duplicated it to what Adam was saying. We knew the recipe was going to work. It was just a matter of fact of doing the work. And it took us from the first time we put a dozer out to Casey killing is probably 4 years.
Sure.
Wow.
And I think that's one thing that we all can appreciate. Deer hunting takes time. From lessons learned and then obviously coming up with a plan and aptly, putting that plan into place. It just doesn't happen overnight. So that's one thing that I would make sure we kind of share is don't be impatient. Do the work, wait for it to happen, and then the rewards are going to happen. But it does take time.
What about the food plot varieties between those two fields? They're relatively close. What are we talking? 400, 500 yards between? No, again, we got elevation change, but how are you diversifying those forages in those two areas?
Yeah, so basically the State Line bottom where we were able to harvest steer, that's a fall annual type plot. Brassicas, rape, cereal grains, all of that. Up on 100 Ridge, we have that to the west, but we also have a clover field covered in wheat, winter wheat, to the top east side of that.
Okay.
So definitely all of the diversity when you consider what you're looking for in the fall. But I think the whole setup and the whole hunt together brings up an interesting conversation, which is we were hunting cooler temps the day before, but lower pressure.
Right.
And a system that was not moving out or sitting over you. So, I think most whitetail hunters think, I need that cool down.
Yes.
I need that, the cooler days with, cooler temps, windier, a little rain doesn't hurt you, all that stuff. And to some extent, I agree with that. But for me personally, my personal preference is I would rather hunt off the back end of that on a bluebird day with rising pressure, even if there is a slight temperature increase. Now, I'm not talking from 40 to 80.
Certainly. We're
But
talking 5, 6, 8 degrees.
Absolutely.
Okay, tolerate that. But it's the changing, it's not the stagnant weather front. It's the, okay, things are changing, things are moving, and that pressure, it gets deer on their forelegs and moving.
To me, in my experience, I like when you talk about those big fronts and major temperature changes, I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts because, as a younger hunter, if I saw like, oh wow, it's 60 today or today over the next few days, but then 4 days out it's going to drop into the 30s. I want to go hunt that day. And it's like that sounds great, but in reality it's such a change that it's like they almost like kind of like hunker down, and then day 2, day 3 is when they really move. And it's like that when you just look at the weather, you're like that's not really the big change. But for whatever reason, that change is so drastic that it's kind of the tail end of that front that's better than pre-front or even during the front.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I mean, my personal preference is I like to hunt like as close to the averages as I can see.
Okay.
So from year to year, if the average temp is, let's just say it's highs in the upper 40s and lows in the lower 30s to mid 30s, if that's what you're seeing from year to year, that's where I like to spend my time hunting. Like if it's, because like you said, abrupt changes get you scattered results.
No shock value. There's shock value. They don't know what's going on. They sit. They don't move much. And a day or so is got to go by for that temperature to get back to normal, or for them to adjust.
And even if it's big changes where it's like lots of wind, if they do move, they're like running. It's almost like you push them out and you're making them move, and they're startled from it.
Yeah, you can tell. It's funny. You'll be sitting in that, the pressure's dropping and it's low, and you may see deer, but they always seem like they're just moving super slow. Yeah. Like they're going 5 yards every half hour. And you're like, whenever I see that and when we're hunting, I'm just like almost put my head down. It's like, oh,
might as well get out of here.
I do want to talk about, though, when you pull up this plot, is the fact that we are so in their bedroom. We took advantage of the big time borderline.
Oh yeah,
and made a plot screen right in front of the blind, and along the north side of it, so our exit and entry was you can't see us, and that big time borderline was a huge part of our exit and strategy to allow us to get in and out of it because we are so tight to the bedding.
Yep, and it works great, and it keeps them from pushing into that wood lot
it does.
Behind you, because
it's a little bit of a wall. It's a vegetative wall.
It is. They really don't like walking through it.
Yep.
So it does multiple purposes. You can funnel deer with it, and it also screens you from a to and from entry and exit to your set. So we have really stepped up our game by using that product, Borderline from Big Time, in these scenarios, and it's changing the traffic as well. We thought we were going to use it for a screening for exit and entry. It's truly changing the traffic.
Yeah, and it's back in there this year, and it's looking great. It's going to be doing the same thing.
If there was a takeaway for us of what we've learned here in the last 24 to 30 months, I would say this is one of them that are probably one of the most important, because we're doing it now everywhere.
Once you find that recipe and you're like, okay, I was a little bit shocked of how important that was, how valuable that was. Now it's replicate. That's been us for strategically having water holes. It's like, oh my gosh, when it's in the right locations, they pound it. Now I have a lot of similar places like that. Boom, 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 boom. And then over time, over the course of 2-3 years, you look back and you're like, well, I've done a lot of change, but the value add to these plots, it's like a little bit like clockwork.
Once you find the recipe, just hit repeat, duplicate, and
little cookie cutters.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like how many people have, when you think about their farm, they have one spot they love, and then they have a whole bunch of stands. They're kind of like, I'll hunt there when I can't hunt my favorite spot. But you want to set your farm up so every set is that that giddy feeling.
And we talk about this all the time. Is every time we go to a set, we look at each other like, man, this is one of my favorite sets. And then we'll go to a different set the next day and we'll go, ooh, this is one of my favorite sets too. Well, I mean, honestly,
that's how you know you're honing.
I
right?
guarantee you, if you ask Casey what his favorite set, had to pick one, and my favorite set, it won't be the same.
Yeah.
Because there are so many, because we've done the repeat, figure it out and repeat it, that our elevation of the game within our farm has elevated so much because we've learned and we've duplicated. There isn't a set that we don't go to now that I'm like, I'm really not excited about.
There's no gar holes.
No, every single one I'm like, this is a really good set.
Our odds
Anything
are good.
could happen.
Yes.
There's good deer here, whether they show up or not. We can't change that. But we're gonna go to a good set that I have really good energy behind.
Now here's the follow-up question. You're probably at the same time as the value of those repeat success places you're having, you're retracting you're not going to other places. So you're keying in on, let's just say maybe you hunted 30% of the farm when you first started. It's kind of like, let's go figure it out. You kind of chase deer around. Now it's after learning, we might have 10% of the farm that we hunt, but like it's a set up 10% and they do it all the time.
Yeah. It's
You
like
can retract
you're
back.
a director, you wrote the script, and you've got everything laid out, and you're just ready for it all unfold. And if you've done it correctly, then there should be no problem for the deer to follow the script.
And I think in closure, the fact that we've duplicated it so many times, we have so many really good sets to go to. We minimize the pressure in all of those spots because we have multiple spots to go to that we really feel good about.
And because of the access, you can, if you needed to, you go time and time again.
We can.
But also you're going there when you know it's right and it performs, and it's like, well, it didn't take long to be successful, but that takes time, and just continue to hone.
And to try to wrap it all up, when you look at this and you go, okay, this spot sets up well for kind of an early season. It's surrounded by north or rut, where we're in the middle of everything. Yep. But there's so many things that go into success, and it's understanding setups. Is this setup better for early, mid, or late season? And then now we take that filter. Now we have to overlay weather, because it could be a good set, but if we hunt it on poor wind or poor weather patterns, then it's not going to work. So you have to overlay good strategy, good weather. Is your schedule allowing you to get there? And now if you do that and they overlay at the same time, now it's just repeated success. Time to strike.
Well, if you enjoyed the Unlock series, please head over to see the complete hunt on the Hunt Collective. And also, if you enjoy the content, please subscribe.